It was a time when Babylon stood proud, tall walls, flowing rivers, markets filled with gold and spices. People believed they had seen everything, kings who claimed to be gods, priests who read the stars, magicians who whispered secrets to the wind. But one day, something strange happened. Two angels came down from the skies into the city of Babylon. Their names were Harut and Marut. No one had seen beings like them before. They looked human, spoke in human tongues, but there was something in their presence, calm, steady, and almost glowing, that made everyone step back. The people whispered, "Are they messengers from the heavens?" The two didn't come to bring miracles or punishments. They came with knowledge. Not ordinary knowledge, but something forbidden, the kind that could bend reality. Crowds gathered. Some came out of curiosity, others out of greed. The angels would tell each visitor the same thing before teaching anything. "We are only a test. Do not lose your faith." They warned that what they taught could harm more than it could help, but curiosity is stronger than caution. People wanted to know. The first to come were scholars, men who had spent their lives studying the stars and the sacred symbols. They asked how to read signs that others could not, how to command what could not be seen. Harut and Marut answered, but they warned again. What they offered was a burden, not a blessing. Then came ordinary people. A jealous man who wanted to separate his rival from his wife. A merchant who wanted customers to choose his stall over others. A woman who wanted her lost lover to return. All of them asked for one thing, power to change what life had given them. The angels tried to show them that power came with consequence. Some versions of the story say that before teaching anyone, Harut and Marut would ask the person to perform an act that symbolized the loss of innocence, to show that what they sought was not pure. One narration describes that they asked a student to relieve himself on a pile of ashes. When he did, a bright light said to represent his faith rose to the sky, and a dark shadow entered his body. It was a warning, a sign of what would happen when one sought forbidden knowledge. But people rarely stopped. They went through with it. They wanted to learn. And so, the teachings began. Harut and Marut revealed how certain words, gestures, and objects could influence the unseen, how spirits could be called, how thoughts could be planted, how separation could be sown between husband and wife. They taught not to encourage magic, but to show its reality, so that humans would understand what it was and avoid it. But people used it anyway. The city changed. Once peaceful families broke apart, neighbors accused each other of witchcraft. People whispered that curses could be found written on clay tablets buried under doorways. The knowledge spread like smoke, invisible, choking, and unstoppable. That, they say, was how black magic began among humans. Before this, people might have guessed or experimented with charms. But it was in Babylon that the practice took form, with rituals, symbols, and a system of spells. The people who had once looked to the stars for guidance now looked to the ground, tracing symbols in dust and whispering forbidden words. The angels' warnings were ignored. Those who practiced thought they had gained control, but the more they used their newfound power, the more they lost control of themselves. What was meant to be a divine test turned into a human obsession. After a time, it said Harut and Marut were punished. Some versions tell that they were suspended upside down in a deep well in Babylon, bound until the end of time. Others say they were trapped beneath the earth, their voices still echoing for anyone foolish enough to seek them. Travelers spoke of a pit outside the city where strange whispers could be heard at night, voices teaching the art of separation, always beginning with a warning no one listened to. But the story doesn't end there. Other cultures and scriptures carry echoes of the same tale. In old Jewish writings, there is a story of angels called the Watchers, beings who descended to earth, fell in love with human women, and taught mankind the secrets of sorcery, astrology, and weapons. The Book of Enoch, an ancient Hebrew text, describes how these angels corrupted humanity by teaching them forbidden arts, for which they were bound in darkness as punishment. The similarity between the Watchers and Harut and Marut is striking. Both involve heavenly beings, forbidden knowledge, and a lesson about corruption through curiosity. In ancient Persian tradition, there were also two divine beings called Haurvatat and Ameretat, meaning wholeness and immortality. Over centuries, scholars believe their names evolved into Harut and Marut in later storytelling. In Zoroastrian texts, they represent perfection and eternity, guardians of divine order. When the legend crossed into the Semitic world, those same figures took on a new meaning, no longer symbols of goodness, but of the danger that comes when divine knowledge meets human desire. In early Mesopotamian tablets, there are even records of real magicians, Āšipu and Masmasku, who performed rituals to ward off evil spirits. Some of these incantations sound eerily similar to what later generations called black magic. They called on spirits to separate lovers, remove blessings, or curse rivals. Whether those practices were inspired by myth or vice versa, no one can say for sure. But the link between Babylon and sorcery was already carved into history. One story tells of how long after Harut and Marut were gone, Babylonian priests discovered ancient writings buried under a royal throne. The scrolls contained instructions for controlling spirits and manipulating people's emotions. The king at the time ordered the writings sealed away, fearing their misuse. But centuries later, they were rediscovered, copied, and spread. By then, people had forgotten their origin. They thought it was simply human magic. In other tales, travelers from neighboring lands claimed to have seen the well of Harut and Marut. They said that if you went there at midnight and called their names, you would hear whispers teaching the art of command over unseen beings. Some said they saw faint lights flicker in the well. Others said the air itself trembled. Yet no one who claimed to have heard the angels' voices ever lived peacefully again. Every story ended with misfortune, madness, loss, or death. There's also a curious record from later folklore in Persia. A group of men, believing they had found the location of the two angels, lowered a rope into a deep shaft. They said a strange wind rose from below, blowing out their torches. When they pulled the rope back up, it was burned clean through, though there had been no fire. After that, no one dared go near the place again. By medieval times, the legend of Harut and Marut spread across cultures. Some Jewish mystics mention them when explaining the origins of forbidden knowledge. Christian scholars, reading older Hebrew and Arabic texts, interpreted them as symbols of temptation, proof that even heavenly beings could stumble when faced with human desire. But in the East, especially in Persian and Arab lands, their story became part of the folklore, explaining how magic first entered human life. The idea of seer, the ability to influence events through secret means, was said to trace back to those two angels in Babylon. Every charm, curse, or spell, according to storytellers, could find its root there. Even centuries later, travelers who visited the ruins of Babylon said that the locals still avoided certain wells after dark. They believed that those places were where the angels had been bound. They said that strange lights hovered over them on quiet nights, and if you leaned too close, you could hear faint murmurs in a language no one could recognize. Some said those voices were teaching, others said they were crying. Whether real or legend, the story endured because it explained something people kept encountering: the sense that forbidden knowledge always comes at a price. It became the origin tale of every charm gone wrong, every curse that backfired, every spell that turned on its caster. People would whisper, "It started in Babylon, with Harut and Marut." No one knows what truly became of the two. Some said they were forgiven and returned to the heavens once their task was done. Others said they remained bound, punished yet still serving their purpose, reminders that knowledge, once released, cannot be taken back. And so, in the ruins of Babylon, where archaeologists still uncover clay tablets filled with ancient spells and star charts, the legend lingers. Each discovery feels like another echo of that old story: two beings who descended from the sky, warned mankind of a dangerous secret, and watched as humanity ignored the warning. That's how, according to the old tales, black magic began, not with demons or rebels, but with a test, a warning, and the human desire to reach beyond what was meant to be known. If you enjoyed this journey through Mystery Vault, make sure to subscribe and join us for more mysteries of history and the world around us.